sex is a big thing at this age range, and so we actually did all we had our kids go to your both of our boys go to Rob's presentation, and and I've talked to them and they said yes, we know, mom, we know, how to make a baby. And then and we're following your rule of thumb, which is, it's a lot of 1 minute conversations, 101 minute conversations versus one 100 minute conversation. So we have these little, we watch TV and you're like, what do you think about that? We do
Yeah.
everything that you recommended. My husband even just recently took a banana and put a condom on it. And they were like, why are you doing this? And it's like, just so you know. Just so you know, you may not be thinking about it
Right.
now, but when
Might
the
not
time
need this for
comes,
10 years, but here it
yeah,
is.
here it is, and we'll keep on showing it to
You'll
you
never
throughout.
forget it. Yes. I,
So what are the conversations about? The kids are prone to risky behavior. They're interested in exploring who they are and their bodies. What is happening with respect to their interest in sex, both for boys and girls, as the ninth and 10th, 11th and 12th grade, or 11th/12th graders? What's happening during that time, and what are the great conversations that are good to have for kids?
well, I first, as people are in, as your kids are moving into middle school or high school, one of the things that an abstract thinker can think about that a more concrete thinker feels so separated from is actually the idea of desire, the idea of feeling sexual, and it's not that there isn't a fifth grader out there that doesn't feel that, but certainly the idea of attraction is more understood or more encountered as people get older, and I think recognizing that about our kids and acknowledging that, and then again in a world that is kind of exploring out loud as a culture, and in all sorts of both positive and mysterious ways, the idea of gender and the idea of attraction in same-sex relationships, and everybody asking themselves the question, well, who am I attracted to, and
Mm-hmm.
what does that look like for me? And I don't know that we have these conversations with our kids are more um, just allowing the conversation to be said, or just this implicit understanding that within our family structure we see the world this way, and that we love you,
Mm-hmm.
um, and that we as parents also simultaneously to having conversations where we're informing our kids about things like, hey, there are really sexually transmitted diseases out here. I really want you to know, because we don't have medicines for some of them at all, and they're hard to figure out if you have them, even when we do have a medicine. That's an important idea in middle
Mm-hmm.
school and high school. But I also think parents sometimes really miss the most simple and basic sex talk in the world, which is loving the people well in your life
Mm-hmm.
and taking care of each other. I mean, how are our kids ever going to expand their idea of sex if we don't show them what commitment looks like, what
Mm-hmm.
intimacy looks like, what vulnerability looks like, what um, that really great sex is an emotional and physical commitment to people. And so, if we want the truth of sex to be bigger than what the culture tells us it is, which is a trivialization of sex,
Mm-hmm.
then it is not so much, it is so much more than just the facts. The
Mm-hmm.
facts can give you information around a sexually transmitted disease. The facts can tell you what to do to get tested for those, to protect yourself against those. Um, but I sometimes think we miss the opportunity to say, um, how do you make an investment in a relationship of love? How do
Mm-hmm.
you how do you know when someone is your partner? How do you know that this relationship is important, and how do you communicate that? And one of the ways that our we can best teach that is to show it. and I think sometimes we get more afraid about the scary things of sex, and worry that they have the facts to navigate those, which are important, but those get buried under that rubble, the truths about sex that we also want our kids to know, which is that it's fun and amazing and building within a relationship and important and in fact essential. And we miss telling them other truths about sex that, out of our own fear, I think.
That's really powerful, I think, because I think it's interesting because I was talking to, they had this one video that's gone viral. You've probably seen it about, do you want tea? Do you want to drink tea? And it's about, have you seen that one?
Yeah.
And so we had our kids watch it and we are like, so we just wanted you to see this. It's a really short little video. Let's talk about it during, like we played it during dinner time and then we talked about the video and they're like, and then they're like, Mom, we've learned about tea at school. And I said, I know, but I just want you to have the opportunity to talk about tea with us,
Yeah.
because we're here, because I think most schools, I think, do a pretty good job about the factual pieces of information, like
Yes.
standard, the transmitted disease. Even at the school that our sons go to that are pretty progressive, is they had people talking about transgender and being
Yes.
gay and like it's okay and let me tell you about my experience so that the kids had an understanding of what that meant and that it's okay. I mean, because particularly you go to a progressive school, which I'm completely on board with that message, but we don't do the here's what it means to be in a loving relationship. Here's how you know. Here's I don't know how you know if you're in love or not or this is the person, but this is what I've experienced and they can't necessarily contribute to the conversation, but at least you can offer. I mean, no one talks about that
Right.
stuff.
Even, if you think again, I always find it interesting that people who are especially worried about, for instance, me talking to their kids about sex, are also some of the people that don't want me to mention birth control or don't want me to mention a sexually transmitted disease, and also, um, they miss an opportunity to, in by not bringing those things up. Those aren't the only things to talk about. What we want to also talk about is what sex is, right? And not just those parts of it. I like to say to high school kids, if I were here, if I had an hour, I have an hour right now to talk about sex. If I had an hour to talk about the ocean, I would bring you a movie about the ocean. I'd bring some sand in. I'd bring some ocean sounds, and we could look at some film footage and all of that. And at the end of the hour, you would barely understand what an ocean is. You wouldn't know what it feels like to put your feet in the sand and look at the sunset. You wouldn't know what it felt like to be 20 leagues below the ocean in a submarine or out on a sailboat. I go, it takes a lifetime to really begin to even understand the vastness of the ocean. And I said, sex is a lot like that. It takes a lifetime to actually learn about the sacred, mysterious parts about sex. And that part of what makes that amazing is that it can be big, but the world actually treats sex like it's actually very small,
Yeah, the small
tiny.
little. It's
And I
about
think
yeah. That's
when
really a
we
good
when we
point.
trivialize it and make it small or make it compact so that it just becomes one idea, that's when sex starts to look like pornography or rape, because there's only sort of one single thing about that becomes the defining idea about sex. When we want our kids to expect and know it's huge and wonderful and mysterious and sacred. I don't want my kids to think of the ocean in only one tiny little way. I
Right.
want them to think about it. I want them to not just see it as one thing. I want it to feel big. And I like the idea of families also owning you mentioned your progressive style, and I think there's lots of families that are more conservative. I want them to just own that, say it out loud. In our family, we believe blah, blah, blah. Because I think it helps kids understand that that's a value of your family, and that even if they decide later to expand upon that value or to recommit to that value, they understand it as an idea that they're recommitting to. Not those ideas aren't always just science facts.
Right.
They aren't just body parts.
Right. Right. Love it. You're getting profound, Julie. Seriously, I really do think it because like anything, there is a cultural idea about sex, and I think we're all kind of brainwashed. And even though we have sex with our partners and we love them, and it's on all these wonderful components about it, and we have life experience, I think all of us kind of still distill it down to a couple different things, which are related to our fears, right?
Yeah.
Versus the stuff that's related to our love,
Yeah.
right? So,
You know, I never forget this moment. I was talking to a group of senior girls. There was springtime of their senior year. They were headed off to college, and I said the whole ocean idea, and I said, that I just described almost exactly what I just described to you, and I said, somebody asked a question. They were asking questions on anonymous cards, and this question comes forward, and it says, "Well, what is a hookup?" And I said, a hookup is if, and then I grabbed my water bottle and I said, a hookup is if I said, this is the ocean. Even if I filled it with ocean water, it's just simply limited to the experience of this water bottle and nothing to do with the vastness of the ocean. So then up later came this other card, and she said, what if I have 50 water bottles?
wow.
And I said, what you have is a water bottle collection, but you don't necessarily understand what the ocean is. That a single hookup, that idea of correlating it with that water bottle, means that it's limited within that experience. It has nothing to do with it is truth about body parts coming together. It is truth about a physical encounter between two people. There's real ocean water in this water bottle. It's not untruth, but it is limited in its scope and never can actually become the ocean because it is limited in a single experience, a hookup. To me, it's not ever the ocean. It's just ocean water in a single receptacle. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Comes another card and somebody says, well, then what is pornography? And I said, well, pornography is a really extremely interesting idea because there's such a wide range of what we understand pornography to be. But if we take it at its most crude form, pornography, I would say that it was as if I took this water bottle and I filled it with tap water and I added salt, elements of true ocean,
Right.
and then I sold it to you,
Yes.
the ocean. That is the essence of pornography. It has real elements of sex and sexuality to it, but the combination of it, because it's been contrived, only reflects the ocean. It is not the ocean. But it can reflect truisms about the ocean, but it is not the total truth. Those senior girls in that situation, they loved that. They were reminded of the opportunity to allow themselves a vision of sex bigger than the world tells them that it is.
And that helps me kind of, I think, not almost helps understand. I think that what I've heard, these are the nightmare stories that parents share with each other about girls that are, giving blowjobs to guys to, as a dare, or adopting some of the predatory behavior that guys had when we were in college, but girls are now having like these hookups where they go out. But it helps because that's their cultural understanding of it that they see on TVs. They don't know anything better, so they're not expecting the ocean. They're just expecting salt water and bottles. And
Exactly.
yeah, that's
Exactly.
profound. Yeah.
And honestly, I I think that a water bottle can also be instructive about the ocean. It's just that it can't be your total understanding, and we've done a disservice to our kids if we allow that to be the only definition of sex.
Mm,
And that's where the trivialization of sex becomes what makes it smaller. We have it. It's in the same way that not all pornography, if you think of, well, what about new drawings of the impressionists, or a piece of art, there are some that would view the naked body as pornography when it doesn't describe it exactly. It's
mm-hmm,
still your naked body, and
mm-hmm,
it's not pornographic.
mm,
Or there are opportunities for people to explore sexuality on the internet that they might otherwise not have available to them.
mm-hmm.
I don't know that I think it's just always understanding, though, that we have an obligation and a responsibility to share with our kids that it's bigger and more interesting, and in fact something that I feel personally committed to within my own marriage. And would want the same for them.
Yeah.
I don't want it to be different or less than for
Yeah.
them.
All right, we've been talking to Julie Metzger about great conversations, and that is really, truly a great conversation. So and your website is
Calm.
greatconversation.com. Thank you so much. That was
Pleasure.
fabulous and so deep, like the ocean. It was incredible. All right, next week we have Calvin Newport talking about how to become a straight A student with ease. And make sure to find us on iHeart, YouTube, or on our website, www.firedupwithcj.com. Thank you
Thank you.
so much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
It means so much to me that you're listening to the show. I would love your support in any way by giving me comments below, or to subscribe to the show, or share the show with friends. Thank you again for your support. Love and blessings.